This is our kickoff to our summer webinar series through the Utah After School Network. We are going to be talking about data in a three-part series, but today we're going to be thinking about summer at a glance, the big picture. So really getting our heads even in the right space to start planning out or continue planning for summer. Most of you probably know me. I'm Holly Phillips. I'm the school alignment specialist with the Utah After School Network, and I'm also joined by Lisa Wisham. Lisa, do you want to introduce yourself real fast?
Yeah, hi, I'm Lisa Wisham. I work with the Utah Education Policy Center at the University of Utah. I've been there for about 4 years now, and before that, I administered 21st century grants at the State Board of Education. So I love after school, and I know many of you, and I'm excited that you chose to join us today.
Perfect. Thanks, Lisa. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. We thought, how great would it be for us all to get to know each other a little better this afternoon by bringing in my colleague, Eleanor Blakenship, to do a little icebreaker activity with us. So I'm going to hand the time over to her, and I think she'll walk us through what she's going to have us work on.
Hello and welcome. I'm so glad to see all of you. I'm excited because I also get to say happy After School Professionals Appreciation Week. It's a week that we are here and excited for, and we're always ready to celebrate with y'all. So with that, we do have a Spirit Week going on. Be sure to check out the hashtags Utah After School, and Heart of After School is the national one. So jumping right in, that worked perfectly because that evened out my teams. In a moment, you are going to be sent to a breakout room. Now, this is very important that you go to your breakout room because you're in partners. So if you don't go to your breakout room, your partner is going to be left hanging. So you're going to be sent to a breakout room randomly. You don't know who you'll be with. In that breakout room, you have 3 objectives. The first is to find out the other person's name and organization. The second is to find as many things in common as you can and to like keep tally of how many things in common you have with this person. And then you're going to prepare to come back and you are going to introduce the other person. So you're going to introduce their name, their organization, and the thing you had in common that was the most surprising to you. All right. Now, I know you're thinking, Eleanor, you just flew through that. Voila, right here. We're going to take a moment. I'm going to try to pin myself. There, right here, is all of our instructions. So name, organization, then you're tallying how many things you have in common, and then you're going to come back to introduce the other person. Now I'm gonna be approachable. We're gonna let you introduce in chat or on video. So don't panic that you're gonna have to talk on the recording. There will be options. Does anyone have any questions while I finish fixing this breakout room? All right, here they come. Welcome back. I can tell by Pat's face that that was a whirlwind. I was like, we had a great time sitting, you know, it was no time at all for us. All right, so I've thrown the instructions back up to help us. You're going to come back with your partner's name, their organization. I think I forgot to type that in the list. And just the number, you don't have to list out everything, but then the one that surprised you most. So if you want to raise your hand, if you want to share verbally, or you can put it in the chat. Oh, I see Pat's hand. It's like, you cannot. There we go.
I had the pleasure, I have the pleasure of introducing you all to Miss Patty White, and she is with United Way. the thing that we have in common that is not so unique is our name. But we were having wonderful conversations before that 60-second timer came up. And that's all.
All right. Thank you for sharing. All right. It looks like Katie, you also have your hand up.
Hey, yeah, I was gonna say I love that Pat and Patty got matched randomly together. Like, good job, Zoom.
It's like Zoom's got it going today.
So my partner was Emily Holdaway from UAN. And the most interesting, and she already put it in the chat, but the most interesting thing we had in common is we both have a little boy. We both have one son. So.
All right. We've heard from 2 pairs. Oh, here comes another one in the chat. Puppies. That's a great thing to have in common is puppies.
I'll do Jana's out loud. Jana Boydston, who is with Boys and Girls Club of Utah County, and she's the data collection coordinator. And yeah, we had like 5 things in common, and yeah, fostering puppies.
All right. It's like last chances here. I can see people somewhat furiously typing. Patty, are you raising your hand or applauding?
Oh, maybe I'm doing both.
That's why I was like, I'm down for using applause for a hand raise. I'll do that.
So Pat introduced me. So my partner is Pat Smith, and he and I had a great time, as you heard. And the not so common, but common is that we both I go by Pat sometimes with my grandkids. So our name is our common. And he was just hired 6 days ago with the UAN as an AmeriCorps person. So we had a lot of fun talking. I think he's a much better singer than I am, but that's as far as we got in our conversations.
All right. Okay, thank you everyone for sharing. I'm gonna hand it back over to Lisa Wisham.
All right, thanks so much, Eleanor. I feel like, Eleanor, you did such a great job of helping us to get to know each other a little bit better and also setting us up for the next one next month. It might be a little more, I don't think embarrassing, but maybe a little more vulnerable, like most embarrassing moment or something. I don't know. So don't be scared though. Please show up. If you don't want to participate, you don't have to. So thanks for everybody who chose to join us today. I had to laugh when Holly said, we want to make sure you're in the right place because we know there's 1,000 Zooms going on. And we wanted to make sure, given how precious your time is, we wanted to make sure you were signing up for the right thing. So as we said, this is the summer professional learning series. We are all about helping you get ready for your summer programming with regards to setting goals and collecting data. So if you feel like this is not the right place for you, we will not be offended if you just disappear, but we hope you stay. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see that okay? Fantastic. Okay, as Holly mentioned, this is the first in a 4-part series. And the purpose of this whole series is to provide you the space to come together as after-school professionals who have one thing in common. No matter what your summer program involves, no matter who's funding it, no matter where you're located or the age group you're serving, you're coming together to plan a fantastic summer program that is really driven by outcomes. And those outcomes can be different. They could be, we know that within the schools and the school districts, there's a big push right now to tap into that additional time for academics. We also know social emotional learning is a big focus right now, especially in the summer for our students. So this is your space that for the next 4 times that we meet to share, to bounce ideas off each other, to share some resources and tools. The second goal we have for this series is we hope that together we're going to develop a competence and a confidence in using the continuous improvement cycle framework. That framework that we're going to talk about today is really going to guide the discussions we have for the next 4 times we meet and help us make decisions related to our summer programs based on data. So we'll get to that in continuous improvement cycle in just a moment. And then the final goal for this series is for us to design programs using that framework and also including SMART goals, designing activities based on student needs, intentionally collecting the right data, and most importantly, making those timely adjustments based on the data that we're collecting. So does that sound like a good use of our time for the next couple of months when we meet? Great. Real quick, this is on the last slide as well, and we'll make sure you have a copy of these slides at the end so you don't have to take vigorous notes the whole time. You'll have a copy of these. Save the dates on your calendar. May 4th, we're going to really dive into some more SMART goals. We're going to introduce them today, give you a little bit of practice, and then we're hoping that you all return on May 4th with some examples of your actual SMART goals for your summer program that we can then talk about and share. May 25th, we're going to be talking about how to make those summer adjustments based on data. And then after programs are pretty much over on August 3rd, we want to invite you all back to share in the celebrations and successes of your summer. So I'm not sure if many of you have heard this quote before. It's something that I hear quite often. It's every system is perfectly designed to get the results it gets. Now, this doesn't mean that every system is designed perfectly from the very beginning. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to make mistakes in carrying out our programs. What it means, though, and it really gets to the heart of this idea of setting a goal, collecting data to support that goal. And as we're seeing that data come in, sitting down with our team and saying, are we on track to meet our goal? And if not, how can we make those adjustments? What do we need to, it could be a small tweak, it could be a large adjustment. What do we need to do to adjust so that we get back on track to meet our goals? So keep that in mind as we are talking about this continuous improvement cycle framework. Many of you have seen this before. We've shared it at Jumpstart and Recharge. We've talked about it in a couple of our PLCs. So I hope it's not too redundant for many of you. But this is a cycle that we believe as a state, no matter what your program is focusing on, this is a cycle that you and your staff can keep coming back to. It has the 4 quadrants, really thinking about starting with engage, going to design. After you design the services, you're going to implement them and collect data and then adjust based on needs and data. So we're going to break it down and talk about each of the 4 quadrants individually, and then I'll pause and open it up for discussions or questions, okay? Okay, the first one, what is our vision for our summer program? Many of you might already know what the focus of your summer program is going to be. You might know what your vision is. You might know what activities or field trips or what the focus is going to be. But I want to push you one step further and ask you, when August comes and your program is wrapping up, what do you want to have achieved? What do you see in terms of success for your students and families. So if you close your eyes and think ahead a couple months, where do you want to be with your program? And it could just be one big thing. It could be, I've talked to so many people over the last couple of months that have said, we just want to get the kids back to our program in person. That's our goal. That's a fantastic goal. So how many? What do you want to achieve in terms of that daily participation or attendance? Or it might be that you have some specific goals related to healthy relationships or prevention components. And that's great too. We're going to talk in a couple minutes about setting goals related to your vision. So this stage is all about where we are now. You're talking to people, you're solidifying community partners. Many of you might be working with your schools or school districts to say, are we going to have teachers involved? Who's going to staff the program? Are we able to be on site at the schools? Lots of questions. And you are right now I believe you're at that engage portion of the framework. After you work out those logistics and you have your partners on board, and you have decided what the ultimate goal, the ultimate vision is for your program, that's when it comes time to really start designing those details. Always go back to what the student and family needs are. So each of you, I'm assuming each of you that are planning for a summer program have a specific reason you're offering a summer program. What is that reason? And I'd like to open it up to see if anybody be willing to share just very informally, what are the reasons or reason that you're thinking about a summer program right now? And it's totally okay if the answer is because we've always had a summer program and we know the kids need it. That's a-okay too. Is that part of the reason? Is it because summer programming last year was so different or in some cases non-existent? So we want to get back to the great programming we used to do in the summer?
Lisa, part of it for us is definitely helping our high schoolers with the credit recovery, making up for credits that they missed out over the last year, but then also definitely addressing social emotional learning and needs like you talked about.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much, Colleen. Anyone else?
Lisa, we have in the chat, Patty mentioned too, employing specific strategies that help to target some of the lower performing students in specific areas like reading and math, and really making sure that they have that warm welcome into the program. So sort of again with that being very intentional with why do a summer program.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that comment, Patty. You're right on with that. As you'll see up here, when we're talking about designing your program services, and by services, we mean everything from curriculum to daily activities, field trips, projects, whatever you're doing with your students should be based on their needs. And it could be needs / preferences. We want our summer not just to be an academic catch-up time or keeping that learning momentum going. We also want it to be a balance, right? A balance of fun and socialization and relationships. So make sure that your services and activities are based on those needs. And now is the time, as you're thinking about all of these services, this is where it's time to say, what's our outcomes? So if you are offering, a reading program within your after school program, what is the outcome? Why are you doing that? And again, if you close your eyes with your team and say, where do we want to be in August? What's our outcome based on those services? Once you decide your outcome and where you want to be in August with regard to that outcome, how will you know you got there? What data will you be collecting along the way? And data does not have to be test scores or grades or standardized tests. It could be discussions with students and families. It could be surveying the students. It could be informal observations by you and your team. And this spring, we will get into more deeper discussions about data. But this is the time, if I were to summarize what I'd like you to capture in this section, it's what are my outcomes for the summer program, and what data am I going to collect to show that we're getting there towards those outcomes. Next, it's going to come time to implement. A lot of programs start June, some July. A lot of programs have a couple weeks off before at the end of the school year before they resume programs. And once you start offering those services, you need to collect the data. And again, it could be formal or informal data, but it's really important to collect that data so that you're not left wondering, are we going to meet our goal in August? If this is our goal for our kiddos, are we going to get there? I once used the terminology with some after school professionals that they really appreciated. And I used it like, I used the term chicken feed. And I can't take credit for this. Dr. Joe Johnson out of San Diego State University used this term and description when I heard him speak a couple years ago about helping schools with their goals. And he said, it can't be like throwing out chicken feed. Because when we throw out the chicken feed to the students and teachers, we're hoping that those chickens get their feed, right? We're just throwing it out there without any intentionality and specificity. We don't want it to be like chicken feed in our summer programs. We want it to be intentional to make sure that the services we're providing are aligned to the needs and that we're collecting the data towards those outcomes. Very intentional, even if we have to slow it down and focus on one goal at a time. And then finally, as we're collecting that data towards our summer goal, and we are regrouping with our summer staff, and it might be weekly, we're going to say, let's look at this data. Going back to the attendance example, if we wanted to keep an average daily attendance of 15 kids in our program, let's take a look at our data each week. And if we're making that progress, great. Let's recognize the factors that are contributing to us being on track to meet the goal. And if we're not, do we need to make some adjustments? Maybe we need to make some adjustments to our goal because it might have been a little lofty starting a brand new program, and that might have been too much. Maybe we need to make some adjustments to our to reaching out to families. There's all kinds of adjustments, and again, some of them are very minor, but going back to every system is designed to get the results that it gets. This is why. If you are meeting regularly, having even informal conversations about what your data are telling you and making adjustments, your system will be designed to achieve the results that it's supposed to get. Okay, I'm going to pause for just a minute because that was a whole lot of talking. And just open it up for some comments, reflections. Was this some new information? Or I guess my main question for you all is, what if anything stood out to you during that discussion of the continuous improvement framework?
Lisa, I have a really unique purpose for being in the webinar. So I'm not an after school provider. I work for United Way of Salt Lake, and we're working on a project with the Salt Lake County Mayor's Office and some school districts on re-engaging students who have faced the biggest barriers to school engagement during the pandemic. And so, each of the schools we're working with has identified that set list of students. And one of the ways we're hoping to set that foundation for them to re-engage in school is by connecting them to really high quality out of school programming in the summer, so we can kind of get them back to that point, right? And so your discussion just now about the continuous quality improvement really made me realize that we need to set a definitive goal of how many of these, 220 students that we're working with, how many do we want to enroll in summer programming? And then how are we going to track that, right? Can we ask that directly of the provider? Can we, set up a scholarship to help pay for their, their programming fees? And then we can track it that way. There's so many ways that we could go about this. And I need to have the discussion internally with my team about how do we really proceed and make sure that we're reaching the maximum number of students possible.
Katie, thank you for that example. That is a great example. And I hope that this discussion over the next couple of months is helpful for you and your team. Deciding on the data to collect, again, where do you want to be in August when summer programs are wrapping up and you look back at your list of students that you were hoping to impact? What's your goal? And then when you mentioned collecting the data, it doesn't have to be a lot of data. I think sometimes, and I was guilty of this for so many years, the term data was so overwhelming. And I know there's a lot of data out there, but you can sift through all the data you don't need and say, we're only going to collect 1 or 2 data points for this goal. And you could be very focused. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to offer this level of support and discussion during the next couple of months to help you streamline that focus in the data. Thanks, Katie. That was a great share. Anyone else? Anything you're walking away with just based on that discussion?
I'll share, Lisa. I've always loved the chicken feed analogy. It's so easy just to throw it all out there, but this helps bring it back. And maybe it's there's a lot of different things to analyze and look at. It's maybe we need a different type of feed, or how are we distributing it, and how often. Just those little variables you start thinking of more and more. And I love that analogy. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm excited to continue to learn from this.
Thanks, Chaz. Yeah, it really stuck with me when I heard Dr. Johnson discuss that. And how are we making sure that our deliberate, intentional program services and activities are not just thrown out there hoping that they fall and impact every student in our program? How are we sure they're getting to all of them? Katie, how are we sure that the opportunities are open to all 200 and some students? How are we making sure that, and that's an equity piece, right? We want to make sure that it's not chicken feed and that we're providing equitable, sound opportunities for all of our students and families. Thanks, Chaz.
No, Lisa, I can't help but think too, from my lens, with my work with school day and after school folks, I love the continuous improvement cycle, and even wanting to stress this notion of it doesn't need to be a secret, right? This is then your plan can be a tool that you engage with parents, you engage with school day folks, and they can even provide some input into it. So it can really be a great connector and conversation starter as well. So I love this model for that reason.
Yes, absolutely, Holly. Please remember that even the best laid plans for the summer programs can be adapted, and they should be adapted. When I worked at the State Board of Education, we had a 5-year grant, and I'd always have grant directors call me and say, the plan that we submitted for in our proposal is changing a little bit. Is that allowed? And my response would be, it's not just allowed, it's encouraged. If you're not making adjustments over time, then there's a problem. We can't just put our summer program down on paper and expect everything to go perfectly without making those adjustments. It's a fluid process. Okay, great discussion. I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to pivot and talk about, sorry, I lost my place. This always happens. Anybody else lose their place when they're sharing their screen and talking to 20 people? Okay, we're going to talk about SMART goals. And SMART goals, again, are back in this, sorry, I'm not quite sure what's happening. I'm trying to move my, can you all see this okay? I'm trying to move my slide over, but it got stuck. There we go. So SMART goals are really for right here, you're identifying outcomes in this design phase. And I think from hearing your discussions and talking with a couple of you, this is that stage that you're at. So we are going to talk briefly about SMART goals today, and we're going to give you some opportunities to practice a little bit and also take some information back to your program with you and back to your teams and come up with some specific, maybe 1 or 2 goals that you'd be willing to share with us on May 4th. So many of you have heard SMART goals before and are very familiar with it. I just wanted to offer you a tool just as a reminder. SMART goals are specific, meaningful, and very, very detailed. Sometimes even more detailed than we realize. They have to be measurable so that you can make those adjustments and track your progress towards your goals. They have to be realistic, and we mentioned that before, right? We want to make sure that our goals aren't too lofty and that it's something that we really can attain. Relevant, they have the goal of your program and the goals for your students have to align with your needs and what your overall project goal is, if that makes sense. And then finally, they have to be time bound. And I'm going to give you an example in just a moment. I'm going to pull up another paper. So this here is a paper that I can share with you, and it takes you through designing a SMART goal using each of these 5 components. So our first goal, let's say we're designing our summer program, and this right here is our ultimate goal. Students participating in the summer program will develop positive relationships with others. What do you guys think about that goal? And is it familiar to you? Have you seen or heard something like it before? I'm seeing some head nods. Yeah, we want, during our summer programs, we want our students to be interacting appropriately and to learn those interpersonal skills. The problem is, if we dive a little bit deeper, we can make it even more specific, measurable, attainable, and time-bound. So we are going to show you for specific, we added a couple of things. We added, not just that they're going to develop positive relationships, but they're going to show improvement in their skills. That tells us that there are some specific relationship skill building areas that we're going to be focusing on. So that's one way here in the orange that we made it specific. Next, we're going to be looking at how to make it measurable. We're still using that same goal that we started with. And as I scroll down, you'll see that in the green, I added a little bit of measurement. How many students are we hoping will improve their positive relationships with others? Well, we're going to try for 80%. 80% of our regularly attending students are going to show an improvement in their skills. Next, going to attainable. We want to make sure we're realistic and that we are pushing ourselves with our goals, but also making sure that they are attainable goals. So we are going to add some blue here. How will we know that these are reasonable goals? We're going to add 80% of students participating in the summer program will report an improvement in their skills related to positive relationships as measured through pre and post surveys. Is that an attainable goal? Is it possible for us to survey the students at the beginning of the summer and at the end? I think it is. I think that's one way we can collect that data. When you get to relevant, there's not necessarily something to add to your goal, but just asking the questions. If we went back to our needs assessment data, or in other words, the whole reason we decided to offer a summer program in the first place, does this outcome statement or SMART goal align with our initial problem or purpose for the program? And then finally, time-based. How do we add some time?
I guess I hope it's okay with Katie, but I really loved her idea for SMART goals. She has a really great start. She had specifics in there and measurable. She's looking at doing attendance for hers and connecting, and timely. She had a nice time bound. It was related to the goal, the overarching goal that she had. And attainable, it seems like she had really good focus on not shooting too high or too low, but really focusing in on what would be something plausible that could happen. So I just wanted to say kudos to Katie for a great start.
Thanks, Kristen. That's awesome, Katie. Thank you. All right. Well, just as a reminder, what we would encourage you to do as you're leaving today, Holly's going to do a quick wrap up for us. But as you're thinking about May 4th, and we hope you'll join us again on May 4th, bring just a draft. It can be written on a napkin, anything, just a draft of a SMART goal that you're planning for your summer program. Because once we share those SMART goals and you're kind of committed to them, we're going to talk about types of data that you can collect that will help you see progress towards your goal. We're also going to talk about the services and activities you can offer to make sure that they are aligned to your goal and to the data you're collecting. So it's all going to be aligned, and we're just going to spend some time discussing that on May 4th. So Holly, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thanks, Lisa. I'm going to share my screen real fast. It up for everybody. The QR code for filling out our quick little survey to get your certificate for your hours for participating in this session. I'll also go ahead and type it into the chat. We would love for everybody to fill this out. So regardless of whether you're collecting certificates to help move you forward with some of our other programs that we have in our office, whether you need the certificate or not, if you want to fill out our quick survey, that would really help. It helps to steer us in the right direction with our professional development. So we always love to hear feedback. You can also just feel free to email myself or Lisa if you have any thoughts or ideas, even within this series or beyond.
I'm putting my email in the chat box too.
Perfect. And then lastly, I just want to kind of give another little overview of where we are going this season. I know UAN is so excited to have this new summer webinar series that we are bringing to you live from each of our own homes. that we hope, we really feel like we've put together an awesome lineup for this summer. Again, this kicked off a 3-part series with Lisa Wisham, helping us really think about being intentional with our summer program and really getting set up and having a plan in place. And then you'll see once summer is kind of up and rolling, now is the time for all of us to kind of have some enrichment opportunities. So we are bringing in some great presenters, kind of similar to our nuggets that we did last summer, who are going to talk on a variety of different topics. I know we have Chaz from UAN, who's going to be talking about lessons learned from the outdoors. We have some good social emotional learning topics and some preventative topics as well. So please be sure to tune in, register for those as well. And then don't forget, mark your calendars that on August 3rd, we're going to really come back together, and because we want to hear, we're here for you guys, and we want to hear about the successes and how your summer program went. So we really encourage you to tune in for that one as well. Joining us next time for May 4th, bring your whole team with you. Bring your whole extend it out to your whole program. Let's make sure people know this is happening. I think this is just awesome information for us to have going into maybe not as wild as the summer as last year, but there's still a lot of important people at the table and a lot of good questions being asked. So let's support each other and really hone in and fine tune our skills moving forward. So thank you all for joining us. We hope to see you next time. Lisa and I are going to stick around. So if you want to ask any questions as you're heading out, let us know. And with that, we will say goodbye for now.